Today, I'm going to show you how to tailor up a dress that has a waist seam, and we're going to do that by creating back darts. And this is the video you guys requested, so if you do have any other requests, leave them down below in the comments. I love making content that you guys really want to see. And if you're looking to take in a dress without a waist seam, make sure you go check out my other video. So let's get into it. So I love this dress. It's a super cute polka dot stretch twill, but it is not going to fit me. I have way too much fabric back here. I probably have a good 4 inches. But we're gonna make it fit like a glove using these back darts. So my dress already has some back darts in it, so I'm going to be following those. But if your dress doesn't have back darts, that's okay. You're going to be following the same process. You're just gonna create your own darts. And I'm going to be tailoring my dress inside out because I think it's a little easier that way. So the first thing we need to do is figure out where do we want that dart to be. And I want it to be right where my existing dart is. So I'm going to seam rip the waist seam about 1.5 inches on each side of this existing dart. You don't have a dart here, you're going to choose where you want your dart to be on your back, and you're going to seam rip open the waist. So we need to remove the bodice fabric from the skirt fabric so we can get into this bodice to add this dart and take it in. I'm going to chalk here where my existing dart is so that way you can see it. So there we go, there's my existing dart right there. So I'm going to rip open the seam 1.5 inches on both sides. I also have a nice little chain stitch here on the bottom, so hopefully we can get that to rip open real quick. If you guys have seen my video on that, you know if you grab the right stitch, it just pops right out. So you can see I've removed the waist seam here, so my skirt is separate from my bodice. And now we can work with the bodice, taking in the back of it, adding a bigger dart. Next, we want to make sure it's balanced. I'm using a dress form so I can pin right into the dress form. If you're doing this on yourself, put on a tight bodysuit and pin into the bodysuit. You want to make sure that you have center back at center back and that your side seam is lined up with your side seam so we know exactly how much extra we have here to work with that we need to take in. I just want to mention that this dress does have the zipper removed in it. Found it like that in my upcycle bin, but you totally do not have to remove your zipper to do this. I'm going to be using the existing dart that's here as a placement for my new dart. If you do not have a dart in here though, you just want to drape the fabric into that excess wherever it's naturally falling on the body to create the shape of intake that you're looking for. Just kind of listen to your dress, where it wants to drape. It could really depend on how it was cut out and how many panels are in it as well. So once I have the intake of fabric roughly where I think I want it, I'm going to start pinning. So we're going to start grabbing this fabric, pinching the 2 layers together as if you are sewing a dart with pins. Try and make sure your fabric stays nice and flat and smooth. If you start to notice any buckles or twists of fabric, unpin and repin. You want this to look very smooth. If it's not looking smooth right now with your pins, it is not going to look smooth later. So this dart on this dress, since it was such a bigger size, it's going to go up fairly high for me. It's going to go up to mid-armhole, and I'm fine with that. I think it's going to look fine. So your dart can end many different places. Maybe you just need to take it in 4 inches in the bottom for like a small dart. Maybe you need to go up to your mid-armhole. That's okay. There's no specific measurement in the length of this dart. It's whatever is making the dress fit and be tailored to your body. I'm going to chalk where the pins are so you can really see where I'm taking it in and how much I'm taking it in. This is a pretty substantial dart. And we are going to true this with rulers later, but I'm just going to put the chalk right where my pins are so you can see that. Now that we have the dart pinned up for the back, we have the waist removed, it's time to take this dress off, true up the dart. I'm going to show you how to get your skirt fabric back into your waist and how to magically transfer it all to the other side so your dress fits symmetrically. And then you're going to want to watch to the end because that's when I'm going to show you how to deal with that seam. I can't wait to see how this turns out. If you're enjoying this video so far, make sure you like and subscribe to Sew Anastasia and hit that notification bell so you know when those new videos come out. And if you'd like to improve your sewing skills, make sure you check out my online sewing classes or sign up for my Pattern of the Month Club where you get access to the virtual sewing circle. Links for those are down below. Now let's get back to finishing up this dress. Before we can do anything else, we need to true up our dart and draw it out so it turns out nice and smooth. If you haven't chalked where your pins are yet, go ahead, chalk where your pins are, and then we can remove our pins. Now we have a vague line to follow for sewing, but we want to true it out with our ruler so that way it ends up nice and smooth. So I want to make this a straight dart. I don't want to make it a curved dart. So I'm going to line up the bottom of the ruler with my bottom chalk mark, and I'm going to line up the other end of my ruler with the tip of the dart up here where my last chalk mark was, and we're going to draw a new line. So you can see it straightened it out a little bit where we had a curve happening here. Now it is possible that you might want a curved contoured dart, but I don't want a contoured dart for my back, so I've straightened it out. Now we're going to sew exactly where the chalk line is, but let's pin it up so that way it stays perfectly flat while we're sewing. Now you don't have to pin, but it's really going to help keep your fabric nice and flat. So I would just put a few pins in it every few inches to help you out, especially if you have a slippery fabric. Here we go, all pinned up. I'm going to be sewing right over that chalk line that I drew, and I have some white thread in the sewing machine so that way you can see it real easy. So I just have the sewing machine set up to a straight stitch, regular stitch length, 2.5. We're going to back stitch at the beginning and work our way right down the chalk line. We're just sewing a regular old dart. I like to back stitch at my tip and cut. Let's take a look at our dart, and I'm going to teach you how to transfer it to the other side. So you can see we have this giant flap of fabric here. That's all the fabric we're taking in. Now I am going to cut some of that away later, but first let's transfer it to the other side. The first thing you need to do is seam rip open the waist in the same place that you did on the other side. So now we're going to fold the dress in half, right sides together, and we are going to pin both layers of the dress together. If you have seams in the dress, you want to line up any seams that you have. First, I am going to pin up center back here. Then I'm going to pin a bit of the waist seam here so I can make sure it's all in the same spot and everything's laying flat. So you can put pins in the center of the fabric as well. You really don't want things moving around on you. I'm also going to pin up here at the neck. So now what I'm going to do is pin exactly where the seam is for the dart. I'm going to be pinning through all layers here. So the other layer on the other side, the pin's going to pop out. So now what we're going to do is take the dress and we're going to flip it over so that way we can see the pins on the other side. So now that I have flipped this over, we can see the pins here on the other side. So I'm going to be chalking where that pin is. Now you can see where the pins are holding the fabric together. I don't need to chalk there, just where I put the pins through the dart. So now that I have this line marked here, this is basically the leg of the dart that we're going to be sewing. And then center of the dart is going to be the center of the dart that already exists. And so now what I can do is remove the pins. So we're going to remove all of the pins. Now we're going to separate our layers. So I have my dart transferred, but I want to double check and see how wide this new dart was that I created on this side, 1 inch at the bottom, and I want to see how long it is. And so it looks like it is 11 3/4 of an inch long. So I'm going to compare that to the line that I drew on the other side. So we have the 1 inch marked out here, which is good. And now I'm going to measure up that 11 3/4 and make sure that I'm going to be ending in the same spot because we want these darts to be the same length. So I'm going to line up the ruler with the 1 inch and then I'm going to swing it over until 11 3/4. And now I can draw my line to true it up. So that way it's going to perfectly match the other side. And there we go. Now we have our new line to sew and our dart is in the same spot. So now we're going to sew that up. And then It's what you've been waiting for, getting that waist seam back on there and making sure it fits. So now we're just gonna sew up that dart the same way we sewed up the other one. Make sure you're blending off and coming off by 1 stitch before you back stitch so you don't have any bubbles. We did it. We've got 2 darts on the back of our dress. So I have really big darts. They're like 1.5 inches wide. So if you have really thick darts like this, I suggest cutting them down and finishing your edges, unless maybe you want to go back later and make the dress bigger. Therefore, leave them in your dress. Just iron your darts towards center back, and we're going to sew them right into that new waist seam. Now what we need to do is assess the waist. How was your skirt of the dress created? Mine here was gathered. So if you have a gathered waist, you're going to gather it back up and you're going to sew it into the waist. If you have a pleated waist, you're going to re-pleat a few of the pleats to add the extra into the pleats and then sew back up the waist. If you have another dart in your skirt for a very fitted skirt, you are going to take in the dart, the same amount you took in the waist on the top, and blend it out. If you have a seam here that was lining up with your dart or multiple seams on the skirt, you are going to take in those seams the same amount you did the dart here and then blend out to the hips. So basically, whatever you took in on the bodice, you need to take in the same amount on the skirt just at the waist, so that way it fits back together. You don't have to take in the same amount all the way down the skirt, just at the waist. So now I'm going to run some basting stitches in this little extra piece here, gather it back up into the waist, serge the edge to make it nice and finished how it was originally, and then we'll try it on the dress form. So I ended up skipping the basting stitches because I didn't have that much fabric to gather up, and since it was pre-gathered before, it really laid in here really nice when I pinned it, so I skipped the basting stitches. But if you have a bunch of fabric or you have really delicate fabric, you probably really want to put those basting stitches in there for gathering. So now I'm going to put a secure seam in the waist here, sewing the dress back together. Back stitch at the beginning, take out your pins before you get to them. And blend back into the existing seam when you need to. Back stitch and cut. And now we're going to do the same thing to the other side. We are all finished. Let's take a look at it. You can see our new darts here in the white thread, and then you can see where we sewed our waist back together in the white thread down here as well. So let's check out how this is fitting on the dress form. So we took in the back of this bodice 4 inches because the bottom of the dart was 1 inch. So that's 2 inches on the bottom of this dart and 2 inches on the bottom of this dart. So we took it in 4 inches at the waist and then blended it up. And you can see we have such a nice fit here. And since I don't have a zipper, I just pinned this up center back 1/2 inch so we can really see our new fit. So now I have the dress right side face out on the dress form to show you what it's gonna look like when you're wearing it. And it looks great. Darts are nice and smooth and the waist fits great. This is all because we took in those back darts, or maybe you added some back darts that weren't even there. Sometimes your dress just might need the back taken in and then it's all tailored up and ready to go. This particular dress also needs the shoulders taken in and the front adjusted because we're going from a 12 to a 6. But the back is finished now. What other dress tailoring videos would you like to see? I would love to know. Leave that down below in the comments. Thank you so much for watching Sewing Anastasia today. If you have any questions about the process, leave it down below in the comments and I'll get back with you as soon as I can. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure you like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when the new videos come out. And I would love to know what other videos you'd like to see, so leave it down below in the comments. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all the socials. That way we can stay connected and creative together. And if you're in Chicago, come on into the design studio and take some sewing classes with me in person. And if you're not in Chicago, well, that's okay. We now have an online sewing school, and you can join the Pattern of the Month Club with the virtual sewing circle. Check out the links down below in the description to sign up. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.